Episode 39, Tutorial. Judging by the tone of Vorden's voice, it felt like he was going to snap at any second, and Layla was prepared for it. She kept her senses on high alert, ready to use her ability any second now. Even Quinn was unsure about what Vorden was about to do. "Vorden, is what Layla said true? Did you attack her?" Quinn asked in a soft voice, hoping to defuse the situation. After hearing Quinn, Vorden stopped shaking and lifted his head up. I'm sorry about attacking you. When I saw Quinn's blood, I thought that maybe the attacker had come back to get revenge. I thought you might have come in to attack me and Peter as well," Vorden explained. "I don't know if you know this, but Peter is only a level 1, and even though my indicator says I'm a level 5, I have to touch people to use my abilities. When you came through the door, I had no choice but to act first." "How can we even believe you?" Layla said, still annoyed by the whole thing. It was clear to her that Vorden was unstable. It was as if his mood and mind were changing all the time. Just seconds ago, she felt like Vorden was going to attack her again, and all of a sudden he's calm. Layla wasn't buying it. However, even Quinn felt like Vorden was acting strange. It seemed like Vorden was always trying to hide something. When Vorden was asked about what happened between him and the second years, and even now with what had happened between him and Layla. "I'll just leave you be for now," Vorden said. "I'm sorry about what happened. Quinn, if you need anything, just let me know." He then got out from his seat and left the two of them alone. "Do you see what I mean?" Layla said. "The man is unstable. I understand he might have protected you a few times, and he hasn't hurt you yet, but someone like him can hurt you at any time." Quinn knew what Layla was saying was right. This wasn't the first time Quinn had seen Vorden lash out, and it didn't seem like it would be the last either. But for some reason, Quinn was unafraid of Vorden like the others. All the acts of aggression that Quinn felt, it never felt like it was aimed towards him. In the hallway, while Vorden was heading to his elemental combat class, he decided to quickly step into an empty classroom on the way. He leaned up against the wall and took a deep breath. As he looked at his hand, blood could be seen. Vorden had clenched his fist so hard that his own fingernails had pierced his palm. "Why did you get in my way? We could have taught that girl a lesson." "What did I tell you? It's because of you we're in this mess in the first place. You attacked her. It's our fault to begin with." "Fine, but you understand that if you keep suppressing us, the little one's anger will only build up. The more he thinks Quinn is trying to get away, the angrier he will be, and then when he takes over, there's nothing me and you can do. I won't let it get to that point. I'm sorry, Quinn, for getting you involved in this, but you were just unlucky the little one chose you." With breakfast over and done with, it was time for Layla and Quinn to head to their beast weapons class. When they entered the room, Faye, Brandon, and Loop were nowhere to be seen. Of course, Faye and Brandon were banned from the class, and Loop had decided to make a transfer to another combat class. Loop just wanted to be as far away from Quinn as possible. Leo stood at the front of the class and was prepared to give out his instructions for today's class. "Now, for today's lesson, it will be individual practice. You have fought for the last couple of days with your weapon. Now you must learn how to get the hang of it, how to make it a part of you. Maybe come up with unique ideas to combine the use of your ability with the weapon. Then tomorrow you shall put today's hard work into practice." With that, everyone went into a separate space with their weapon. A few of the students sat down and started to think about how they could use their ability with their weapon. One student covered their whip in flames, making a fire whip. Another held a shield and managed to alter its shape to form spikes. While Quinn had no clue what to do. His only skill was easy to use, and there wasn't much to do with it other than swing his hand. But what Quinn wanted to do more than anything was learn how to fight. "I wish there was someone who could teach me how to use these things," Quinn said as he sighed. "Request of combat lesson activated. A suitable weapon is currently in use. Hand-to-hand combat level 1 will now be shown." Just then, as Quinn said those words, he seemed to have activated something within the system. In front of his eyes, a video started to play. Quinn quickly looked around him to see if anyone else could see what he was seeing, but he seemed to be the only one. In the video stood a single, tall, long-haired blonde man in a large empty room. On his both of hands, he wore 2 gauntlets similar to Quinn's, but looked a lot more powerful, and his beauty was unmatched, something Quinn had never said about a boy before. There was one other thing that Quinn noticed, and it was his piercing red eyes. "Hello and welcome to hand-to-hand combat classes for beginners," the blond man said in a cheery voice. I don't know how much time has passed, but if you have come across this video, that means you're one of us, and I hope that this information that is being provided isn't useless in your day and age." The appearance of the man and the man's words made Quinn think about who exactly the man was in the video, and he had good reason to believe that he was a vampire. Episode 40, Taken Away. As Quinn diligently watched the blonde man in the video, he noticed several things that he read about in fantasy novels that all pointed to the tall man being a vampire. The ghastly pale skin, the beautiful looks, and finally, the red eyes. Not only that, but the man in the video also stated that Quinn was one of them. If Quinn was trying to understand the meaning behind his words, the man was stating that he was a vampire, although there was also some other strange wording the man had said as well. The fact that he didn't know how much time had passed. Did it mean the video was made a long time ago? Was the man in the video even still alive? For now, Quinn had to put all of the questions he had to the side, as there was nothing he could do to confirm it. The video continued to play, and the tall blonde man started to speak again. "To whomever this video happens to be shown to, I will now demonstrate a set of skills that you should be able to perform at your level. Our kind and/or abilities work best when we use a weapon that covers our hands." The man then proceeded to get into a fighting stance. "I will cover 2 sets of basic moves, and it's up to you to learn them and figure out how to use them in fights. If you forget, feel free to open up your system at any time and watch the videos again. The first move is a defensive move. I call it Flash Step. To perform this, if the system has been set up correctly, you will need at least 15 points of agility." The man then proceeded to perform the Flash Step. He crouched down and moved to another corner of the room in an instant. At the same time, an after image of him was being shown. Now this skill uses up a lot of stamina, so even if you have enough agility points to perform this skill, be careful not to wear yourself out. I would only use it when avoiding a fatal blow or going in for an attack. Please also make note that although the move is fast and hard to be seen by the naked eye, at most, it can only move you at the distance of 5 meters. Looking at the move, Quinn straightaway realized how handy it would be to have something like this. In his last fight against Loop, he could have avoided several blows at the last second. The only thing was, it was a shame that Quinn currently didn't have enough agility points to practice the move. The next skill I will show you is the Hammer Strike. Once again, the man got in a fighting stance. This time he lifted his right foot and slammed it onto the ground, while at the same time he pulled back his left hand and threw out his right hand. All of this was done in one smooth motion. Just from watching the video, Quinn could see that the air had slightly moved. "Cool, right?" the man said, smiling. "For this skill, you will need at least 15 strength as well. That is all for today. When you are ready, the next set of hand-to-hand combat classes will be unlocked for you. If you want a slowed down and more detailed version of these videos, they will be saved in your system. Good luck, my friend, and I wish you all the best." After the man had finished talking, the video immediately ended. As Quinn opened up his system, there was now an extra tab that stated Tutorial, and in it were 2 videos of the skills he had just been shown. When watching the videos, it was just as the man had said. The video contained slowed-down versions of the skills the man had recently performed. There was even detailed commentary on how the skills would work and what you needed to do. Quinn couldn't help but think who this guy was. The way he spoke clearly meant he knew about the system. Did that mean he was the creator of the book Quinn's parents had left him? But it was hard for Quinn to remember meeting anyone like the man in the video. He didn't even know what his parents' faces looked like that well. Whatever it was, he was happy that the system was starting to help him out more. He felt like the system, at first, had given him a hard time, giving him quests to drink blood and drawbacks such as halving his stats while in the sun. But now, Quinn was starting to feel happy that he had discovered the system more than ever. Quinn immediately started to watch the Hammer Strike video. As long as he wore the gauntlets, he technically had more than 15 strength. He wasn't sure if that counted, but there was no harm in trying. But as Quinn was watching the video, Leo had come up and approached him. "Quinn, I'm afraid I have some bad news," Leo said. That's when Quinn also noticed 2 military men were standing behind. "I'm afraid you will have to follow these men. They have a few questions they would like to ask you. Don't worry, I will be coming too." With that, one guard held Quinn while the other held Leo. "Hey, what's going on over there?" the students said, noticing the commotion. "Is he being taken somewhere?" "Students, we shall be back in a while," said Leo. "Please continue to watch, and if I spot any of you slacking or breaking the rules, you know the consequences." A few moments later, and the two of them were teleported into a small square room. There were no windows and a few lights above them. Inside the room was a single table with a hooded female sat on one side and an empty chair on the other. Standing behind the female was a man who had the rank of general on his clothing. "Please sit," the general said. Quinn did as he was told and sat in the empty seat, but with the atmosphere in the room, he couldn't help but feel nervous. "Don't look so worried, boy. As long as you have done nothing wrong, you have nothing to worry about." Episode 41. Was it you? A million thoughts started to race through Quinn's mind. Had they found out about his ability? Were they going to force him to give it up and hand it over? Or had the loop informed them that he had killed Brandon, and they were now going to punish him for it? Although Quinn was trying the best to calm down, it was nearly impossible. As he sat in his seat, he could feel his heart beating as if it was trying to escape from his chest. "Boy, calm down," Leo said. "I think even the others can hear your heartbeat." "Now, before we begin, I would like to inform you of a few things," the sergeant said. "A student by the name of Brandon Richardson has passed away recently. Now, your teacher here has informed me that he and another student named Fei Lan had attacked you during combat classes yesterday. Now, not only has one of the students passed away, but Fei was also admitted to the hospital late last night." So it was something to do with Brandon's death after all. "We currently have no leads to what happened to Brandon, so that eventually led us to you. Although it's hard to believe someone with no ability like you could do something like this, there is always a way. The woman sitting opposite you here has the ability to detect whether someone is telling the truth or not. Now, please proceed with her demands." "It's okay," the lady said. "I just need you to place your hand over mine." As Quinn placed his hand over hers, he suddenly felt a calming feeling enter his body. "An ability has been detected. Unable to block the user's ability." "Now tell me, did you kill Brandon Richardson last night?" she asked. The calming feeling allowed Quinn to answer naturally. He felt like he was suddenly floating on top of clouds. "No, I did not." The woman carried on holding Quinn's hand and eventually let go. "He's telling the truth." "As said, I couldn't believe he would do something like this," Leo said. "I mean, how would it even be possible? He's only a level 1. "It looks like we no longer have any leads. It's a shame, but an accident like this happens from time to time. It is expected," the sergeant said. "I'm sorry for wasting your time. Feel free to head back to class." With the questioning over, the two guards grabbed Leo and Quinn by the arm once again, and a few moments later were teleported back to the weapons hall. "Boy, your heartbeat was starting to give me doubts that you were hiding something," said Leo. "But I'm glad you were not the culprit. Otherwise, I would have lost a promising student." With that said, Leo started to walk around the room and give advice out to the other students. That's when Layla had come over to where Quinn was. "What happened? Is everything okay?" "Yeah, it seems like it will be for now at least," Quinn replied. Quinn explained to Layla what had happened after the integration. At first, she was even shocked to hear that Brandon had died, but was happy to find out that Quinn was now completely cleared of suspicion. But as she thought about it more, she started to think who in their right mind would be crazy enough to kill a student, and for what reason. "Hey, Quinn, you might not like what I'm about to say, but do you think maybe Vorden did it?" "What makes you say that? Did something happen between Vorden and Brandon?" "No, I mean, is it not strange that Vorden approached you in the first place? He's a level 5 user, while you're just a level 1, and when he attacked me the other day, he kept shouting about you. And trust me, the guy seems crazy enough to do something like that." "Really? But why? It's not like me and Vorden have known each other for long. Do you really think anyone would go to the extreme just for something like this?" "Yeah. Even if I do think he's crazy, I don't think he's that crazy." With that, the two continued to practice their combat classes. Although Quinn was trying his best to learn the hammer strike move, he couldn't concentrate. He kept thinking about the words that Layla had said. Right now, there were no suspects to Brandon's death, and Vorden had acted oddly at times. And the last thing was the fact that Vorden wasn't in his room when Quinn arrived back last night. Just what was he doing so late? As the combat classes had ended, Layla and Quinn decided to hang out with each other for a while. There were a few tests both of them wanted to do with Quinn's ability. Quinn wanted to find a way to stop the sun from affecting him and learn about it more, while Layla wanted to see if there was any way she could be turned into a vampire. But as they walked out of the weapons hall and out onto the ground floor, them and several other first-year students had been stopped. The people stopping them were second-year students, and they had asked all the first-year students to gather at the assembly hall. "Just what is going on?" Layla said. "I have no idea," Quinn replied. Of course, the second-year students were powerful, and the first-year students had no choice but to agree. Even the higher power levels had agreed to come, afraid something might happen. Around 100 of the first-year students had gathered in the assembly hall. Around them was not a single teacher, but just several of the second-year students. Up on the stage, the curtains were drawn, and in front of it stood Momo. "Welcome, every single one of you," Momo said. "Today we have a special event, a special message to all you first-years. You see, there has been someone going around trying to go against us, thinking he can break the previous system that has been around for years in this school. I am here to tell you that this is what happens to those who do not obey." Momo pulled down on a piece of string, and the curtains on the stage started to open up. As the curtains moved away slowly, it started to reveal a student who had been tied up and placed on a large piece of wood. The student was bloody and had markings of being beaten everywhere. "Vorden?" Quinn said. Episode 42. Target Practice. Finally, the first-year students had gathered in the assembly hall as asked. There was chatter amongst themselves, as there seemed to be no sign of any teachers, and only the second-year students. It was easy to tell the difference between years with students, as there was a rank embedded on their shirt that told the difference. "Have all the students arrived yet?" Momo asked. "Yes, everyone from Dell's class and the weapons combat class should be here." "Well, it's time to show everyone what happens when you don't follow the rules." At that moment, Momo pulled a piece of string, pulling back the curtains, revealing what was behind them. As the curtains were drawn, a badly beaten-up Vorden was on display, tied to a large wooden plank. Both of his hands were slotted into holes, while his body was made to stand, and it looked like his legs were wired down by some type of ability. Just then, several of the second-year students pulled out carts that seemed to be filled with large black circular stones. Momo picked up one of the round balls and held it in his hand. "This here's a metal ball that has been embedded with the power of a beast crystal," said Momo. "When the Earth had found a way to mix the beast crystal with our own weapons, it was a turning point in the war. But what they don't teach you as first years is that beast weapons need to be activated with your ability. Once activated, they can give out extra power. The higher the beast crystal used to make the weapon, the higher the power." Quinn, watching the whole thing, couldn't help but look at the badly beaten-up Vorden. He was wondering how on earth Momo could stand there and talk so casually, as if he was giving a presentation to the whole class. "So us second years have decided to give you from the beast weapons class and some of you other first-year students a shortcut. Today, we will show you how to activate a beast weapon using these balls." That's when a first-year student raised his hand to ask a question. Excuse me, but does any of the teachers know about this?" For a moment, there was silence. Even the first years couldn't believe why someone would ask that in this situation. It was obvious that this was being done behind the teachers' backs. Then a second-year student had come from the side of the assembly hall and immediately punched the student who asked the question in the face. The second-year student repeatedly punched the person until he eventually passed out. "Are there any more questions?" Momo asked. The first-year students stood there silent in fear. They didn't want to say anything, especially after they had seen what happened to the boy who had just asked a question. "Good," Momo said before continuing. "Now to explain. These beast stones here were made with the purpose to help you activate your equipment. So to be honest, they're quite useless, but they are handy for demonstrating. Just like when you activate your ability in your body, you need to concentrate on the ball in front of you. Think of it as a part of your body and focus your ability on it." The stone ball being held in Momo's hand suddenly went from a black to a green color. Now, usually your weapons wouldn't change color when activated, but as I said earlier, these balls are you just for the sake of helping you learn how to activate your weapons. Once the color is changed, that means it has been activated and its strength is increased. Now today, we will be practicing target hitting. The second-year students then moved Vorden down from the stage and onto the floor with the other first-year students. The board here is special, you see. Even a bullet wouldn't be able to penetrate through it. Only the power of a beast weapon can. So today's lesson is to throw the ball and hit the target. Simple, right? What, is this really allowed? A student asked. And what do they mean by the target? The board, it's so thin. They're basically telling us to hit him. Won't we get into trouble for doing something like this? What do you mean? The teachers don't care when we get beat before. Why would they care about something like this now? The second years are only doing this because they know they can get away with it. They have been here longer than us. Momo started to look at the crowd when his eyes finally had met with Quinn's. Oh, I almost forgot. The crazy boy here has been targeting us second years one by one, thinking we wouldn't notice. Not only did he not heed our warning, but he completely ignored it and came after us. We dealt with him in this very hall back then, but he still didn't listen. Now, this is a warning to you all. This is what happens to those who try to disrupt the flow in school. The second years then poured out the crates of black beast stones. They all fell out and rolled onto the ground floor. There were more than enough stones there for each student to throw at least one ball at Vorden. Now, who wants to go first? One of the second students said. Hurry now. If no one wants to volunteer, then I will just have to pick one of you. As expected, not a single person had volunteered. The students were cruel to those who were weaker to them, but not like this. Usually, it would be a case of just better treatment, but it seemed like the second years were targeting Vorden. Whatever Vorden had done, he really had annoyed them. All right then, you, the girl with the brown hair, you go first, the second year student said as he put one of the balls in her hand. I can't, she said. Really? Well, if you can't, then we have no choice, Momo said. Two of the second year students went ahead and grabbed the female by her arms and spread her out. She struggled to break free and was wondering if she should use her ability. The girl started to look around to her side to see if anyone, a single person, would stand up for her, but they all looked away trying to avoid eye contact. Momo picked up one of the balls and it started to light up green. What's with you first years? When we ask you to do something, then you need to do it. The ball flew out of his hand and managed to hit the girl dead in the stomach, although Momo was careful not to use his full strength. Get her out of here, Momo said. Next! The next student was a male. He had the ability level of 2.5, but when he held the ball, it managed to change in color, activating the beast core's powers. Unlike the female, the boy didn't hesitate. He had more time to think about what he needed to do. He threw the ball hard, and the ball managed to hit Vorden straight in the stomach. The impact was hard, and Vorden coughed out blood all over the floor. You see that? Now that was perfect. That is exactly how everyone should throw the ball. Layla and Quinn had been at the back this whole time, watching everything. As they were one of the last ones to enter the room, and even though Layla had her grudges against Vorden, she knew this wasn't right. Those bastards! How could they do something like that? Quinn, go call Leo. If it's him, he might stop this mess. But as Layla turned around to look at where Quinn was, he was nowhere to be seen. Pick me. I don't mind having a little try, Quinn said with a smile, standing at the front of the students. Just what was the crazy boy thinking? Layla was stunned as she watched Quinn. Episode 43, Fighting Back. As Quinn volunteered himself next, Momo couldn't help but think he was up to something. He knew the two of them were friends, so why would he volunteer? In a way, this whole demonstration was to show the first years that they were to obey the second year's command. Every year, it had become a sort of tradition at the academy. A similar thing had happened to them when they were first years. A display that there was a power far greater than them, and they were not to become cocky. To show them that there was something greater ahead, this would draw them to the fact that they needed more power. It would strive for them to work harder. It was never meant to get this far. At first, they had given Vorden a simple warning. Then, Vorden was the one who first started to attack the second years. At the time, Momo and the others decided to show them his place. They dealt with Vorden on his own, or so they thought. He continued to disobey their commands, and still came after weaker second-year students, one by one. That's when they decided to punish him publicly. This way it would solve all future troublemakers and show them what happened to them. Quinn started to look around at all the second years in the room. There were a total of 8 second-year students, standing by the edge of the hall, 4 on each side that had around 50 first-year students surrounded. There were also 2 students by Vorden, one on each side of the board. These students were the weakest of the bunch. Each of them had a power level 2 displayed on the watches. Even though they were second years, they all followed Momo, which meant they were weaker than him. There was the chance that they had already learned how to use a soul weapon, but it was unlikely. They had only just become second years, so there wasn't much chance for them to learn anything. However, the real problem was Momo and the people by his side. Momo stood there with the power level of 6, and the 2 beside him were level 4s. It was unlikely that any of the first years would help Quinn out, and even the strongest first year in the room was Erin, and even she was a level 5. It was no wonder, even though the first years outnumbered them, they were afraid. As Quinn held the ball in his hand, a message had appeared. Basic tier beast weapon, round ball. Would you like to activate? Strength of weapon will increase by 5%. The percentage stood out to him. It was the same number his gauntlets gave when using them. Perhaps Quinn didn't need to figure out how to activate the beast weapons, as Momo had said. It seemed like the system would do everything for him. Activate. The black ball started to glow. It glowed brighter than any of the balls the other students had held before. How is that possible? He was able to activate the basic tier weapon fully, Momo thought. That means its strength is increased by at least 5%. If he had a higher tier weapon, I wonder if he could the same. Wasn't he just a useless level 1? Quinn then walked in front of where Vorden was standing. There was now a good 5 meters of distance between the two. Why do we have these powers? Quinn said out loud. Isn't it to protect ourselves? To fight those who harm our friends and family? Vorden, hearing Quinn's words, started to lift his head. He had a feeling he knew what Quinn was planning to do. Quinn, no, don't. What are you doing? Vorden mumbled, but was unheard. I have taken a beating my whole life, and I was weak back then. What do I care if I take another beating now? Quinn then chucked the ball using all his strength as hard as he could. With the 16 points of strength and the added 5%, the ball came out lightning fast as it left his fingertips. Instead of the ball hitting Vorden, though, like everyone suspected, it landed straight in the student's stomach, standing by the side of the board. The power was so strong that the student was lifted off his feet and knocked out in one blow. 50 EXP gained, 175 of 400 EXP. What the hell are you guys doing standing there? Get him! Momo shouted. Quinn knew there wasn't much he could do against all the second-year students, so he wanted to create as much havoc as possible. The 2 level 4 students who stood by Momo's side started to come towards him, but instead of Quinn running toward them, he suddenly ran toward the crowd of first years behind him. He bent down and picked up 2 more of the black balls on the floor and started to head for the weaker students around the side, while weaving in between the first-year students. Then, when he was within distance, he had found his targets, the weak level 2s who were standing by the side. Once again, he threw out another 2 black balls, aiming for them at full strength. One of the students managed to avoid the black ball, but the other wasn't so lucky, getting hit and knocked out. 50 EXP gain, 225 of 400 EXP. This was Quinn's plan. So far, every level up, Quinn was able to obtain an ability. He didn't know what he would get, but he sure hoped it would help him win the fight. There were enough second-year students for him to take on to cause a level up. He went then back into the crowd to pick up even more balls while making sure to use the other students as cover. What are you guys doing? To anyone who manages to hit or capture that guy, they will be free from any form of punishment, Momo said. The first-year students started to look at each other. They didn't want to be involved in the first place and were unsure of what to do. Why should we listen to you? Layla said. Just a second ago you dealt with one of us for asking a question. Who knows whether we can trust you or not? Fine, you don't want to help? Attack them all! Just then, the 2 level 4 students who were chasing after Quinn no longer cared about injuring the first years. The 2 people started to gather up their abilities. One of them swung out their arm, and with it, a large line of water came out at them. But before it could even reach any of the students, an ice ball was shot out and froze the water attack in place, causing it to fall to the ground. The person responsible stepped forward and drew her sword out. I wasn't going to get involved, but you guys attacked me first, Erin said. Ha! Even if you're a level higher than us, do you really think you can take on 2 level 4s? Just then an arrow came shooting out, aiming for one of the students, but before it could reach him, an earth wall was raised. She won't be alone, Layla said. To be honest, at first, Layla wasn't planning to get involved. If Quinn wanted to take a beating, there was no reason for her to get one with him. However, she too had experienced mistreatment in the school. Layla had no idea how strong Quinn really was, but felt like he must have had some sort of plan to fight back, and now it looked like the first-year students were going to get hurt anyway. With Layla and Aaron distracting the other high levels in the room, Quinn felt like this was his chance to deal with the rest of the level 2s. However, it wasn't going to be as easy as he thought. Out from the side, a long, thin object came lashing out at him. It was too fast for Quinn to react, causing him to be hit across his body. Not only did the attack pierce his chest, but it also sent him tumbling to the ground. 13 of 20 HP. 7 points of HP with one attack. Just what was that? Quinn thought, looking at what had just hit him. Coming towards him was Momo. In his hand, he held a beast weapon whip by his side. "You have caused so much trouble," Momo said. "I don't know how you can activate the beast weapon so well, and your surprise attacks seem to work, but you will always be a weak level 1. Before Quinn could even get up, he was already surrounded by the other 6 second-year students. Vorden, watching the whole thing from the board, felt useless. "I have to help him. He's only getting hurt because of me. This is all my fault," Vorden said. "If you want to help him, then let me take over," a voice said in Vorden's head. Episode 44, Finally Free. Inside the assembly hall, there was one boy who was unsure of what to do, and that was Peter. He had been there the whole time from the very beginning, but chose to hide in the crowd so he wouldn't get picked. When he saw Quinn come to the stage to try to help Vorden, he felt even more guilty. Why? Because the whole reason Vorden was tied up on the slab in the first place was because of him. The other day when the second years came to see Peter, they had come with a proposal. Help them get Vorden to come to the assembly hall, and he would be protected by the second year. Of course, Peter felt like he had no choice. If he refused the second years there and then, they would have tortured him until he agreed anyway. So what was the use of fighting back if the end result was the same? After their combat classes had finished, Peter had asked Vorden to go with him to the assembly hall to help him further practice. When they entered the room, the second-year students, including Momo, were hiding, waiting for him. When the time was right, they all came out at once and jumped him. But what had surprised Peter was that in that instant, Vorden had turned and pushed Peter out of the way. "Run! I'm sorry, this is all my fault," Vorden said. Vorden thought the second years had targeted him because of what he had been doing in his free time. He had been fighting the second-year students when they were all on their own, trying to weaken Momo's gang one by one. Not knowing what to do, Peter ran out of the room, only later to return with everyone else. Then when he saw Quinn, someone who was just as weak as him, stand up to the second years, Peter felt a pain in his heart so strong. He had betrayed them. But Peter was going to make things right. While no one was looking and everyone's attention was focused on the fights around them, Peter had managed to leave the assembly hall. Meanwhile, at the center of the assembly hall, Aaron and Layla were busy confronting the 2 level 4 students. The first years had spread out, making sure not to get hurt in the crossfire, but at the same time doing nothing to help. It was unclear who the winner would be, and they felt like if they joined the wrong side, it would only make things worse for them. "Hey, do you mind if we switch?" one of the second-year students said. "My water abilities are weak against her." "I see you want a level 2 user, huh?" the other student replied. "Oh well, just finish her off quickly." With that, the 2 second years charged in for the attack. The water ability user went after Layla, while the earth user went after Aaron. As the earth user got closer, he stomped the ground, and a spiked earth mound followed, heading right for Aaron. But Aaron remained calm. As the spike came towards her, she slashed her sword and with a single strike, cut the spike in half, causing it to fall to the ground. "What the? That beast weapon! If I cut through my earth ability, is it an advanced tier beast weapon?" the earth user thought. However, he didn't have much time to think. With her other hand, Aaron had formed an ice spear and threw it towards her opponent. The earth user lifted his arms, causing a wall of earth blocking the attack. He then moved his hands apart, and at the same time the wall he had created split in two, but when the view in front of him was clear, Aaron was nowhere to be seen. Suddenly he felt his legs start to feel cold. When he looked down, he noticed they were starting to freeze. "For a second-year level 4 Earth user, you are incredibly weak." Before the boy could react, Aaron had whacked him in the back of the head with the hilt of her sword. Then, as he fell to the ground, she froze his arms and limbs in place, making sure he would stay on the ground. "How did she win so easily?" the first-year students watching said. Yeah, shouldn't a match between a level 4 and 5 user be closer than that? And he was a second-year student. Maybe they aren't as strong as we thought. Usually, a fight with a level 4 and 5 users would be a lot closer, especially considering the other student was a second year. But there was a major difference between the two fighters, and that was something called fighting IQ. No matter how strong someone's ability was or how powerful a punch they packed, you needed to know how to use your abilities and when. This could be improved with experience, or some people were just naturally gifted. For Erin, she had always fallen into the gifted category. Although Erin had finished her match quickly, the same couldn't be said for Layla. Her attacks were basically useless. As an archer, her skills were best used when surprising her opponent and when there was a distance between the two. Here, she had neither of them. Every attack of hers was met with a wall of water that would stop her arrows in their tracks, and finally when she was tired. The second-year student threw out his fist, and a ball of water came out towards her. It hit her dead in the stomach and sent her flying back towards the front of the hall near Vorden. The water user started running after her, planning to finish her. Layla, seeing this, struggled but was too hurt to get up. "Hey you, free me, I can deal with him." "What?" Layla said as she looked up, noticing that it was Vorden who was speaking to her. "Come on, hurry, we don't have much time. Touch my leg." Layla hesitated for a moment. She still had remembered what had happened when the two of them were in the room. She still had an odd feeling in her gut, telling her Vorden was a bad person, but right now it was the only person she could rely on. She crawled over to Vorden's side and touched his leg as he had asked. Then the shackles tied around Vorden's arms and legs started shaking. "Come on, help me, you bitch!" Vorden shouted at her. Vorden was using Layla's telekinesis ability, but it was weak. It wasn't strong enough to break from the shackles. Layla then lifted her hand, and with the two of them working together, the shackles were finally removed and Vorden was free. He started to rotate his wrist as if he was getting used to his body. He shook his limbs out and started to jump up and down. "Finally, I get to come out. It's been a long time." As the water user continued to run forward now that Vorden was free, he was more cautious. The last time they had fought with him in the assembly hall, they remembered Vorden having earth powers. At the time, the last person he had touched was Peter. Vorden then started to laugh hysterically and charged towards the water user. It was an unexpected move. The water user panicked and threw out 2 lines of water blades. These were just as sharp as an attack from a regular blade, but could be thrown out. As the blades came towards him, at the last second Vorden managed to twist his body in an odd way, avoiding both of the blades. He then lifted one of the black balls from the ground using his telekinesis and threw it out. However, the attack was easy for the water user to block, forming a water wall stopping the ball, but then, crack! Something was felt on the back of his leg, and at the same time a crunching sound was heard. The boy immediately fell to one knee. As he looked at Vorden in front of him, he could only see Vorden with his hands held out. Then another striking pain was felt through his body, this time on his other ankle. Without realizing it, Vorden had attacked him from behind, pulling the other black balls towards him. The water user was too focused on the attack in front. He never thought about an attack from behind. Also, it had come as a surprise to him that Vorden was not an Earth user as he thought. Vorden then lifted up 2 more black balls and swung his hands down. At the same time, the balls came rushing down at a crazy speed, hitting the student in the forearms, breaking them at the same time. The student screamed in pain, and with his arms mangled, he could no longer use his water ability as he could before. "Finally, I, Rayton, have returned."